what's up? This is Temple of Film Debris. This week we're filming at a shop called Quest. It's a great comic book store. It got all kinds of things, and comics, of course, and figures, and books, and shirts, and little action figures. There's a Devil May Cry comic. There's a Django Unchained comic. Did you know that? Django. Ah, come on, D. Today's episode is top comic book movie moments. I know you got some favorite ones. Maybe we're going to mention them. Maybe we're not. Well, I don't know. Maybe we should stick around. Let's see. Right, so the first movie I'm going to talk about for favorite comic book movie moments is Scott Pilgrim, The Final Stage.
Your hair looks stupid.
Second password.
I mean, that's not. It's just the comic book is better than the movie. Hello.
Scott!
Let it go. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing.
When Scott is going into that building and he has to go through those guys, and he's like kind of going up a tower, you know, like they do in the final stage, and he gets to G-Man. You know, you got Michael Cera, who plays, maybe that's the role he was born for, or you know, because he's awkward, or maybe Arrested Development is what he's born for. I don't know what that guy was born for, but you know, has Michael Cera and the hipster god Jason Schwartzman, who's in all those Wes Anderson, well, not all Wes Anderson movies, but he's in there, and you know, he's going to the fight, and with Beck, you know, Beck's doing the music, and it's just a great combination blend of music and video games and movies. It's like the perfect combination of all that stuff. And you got Bill Hader doing the voiceover of the narrating, like the announcer, you know, like the finish him guy. And then he loses or he dies, but he has another guy because he had one up. So he starts over again and he goes to the tower again. But this time he does it better, just like you would want to do in a video game. And he finally goes up there and he defeats the boss and he gets all these coins. It's a great moment for video games and movies. It's very fun. Yeah. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, my first pick.
So my first pick for comic book movie moments would be the 2005 film Constantine. And this has Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz. And in this scene that I'm talking about is when Keanu Reeves goes to hell to see if Rachel Weisz's, her character, her twin sister, was actually in hell. So he goes down to hell, and it's epic. It looks exactly like a normal city, but just run down, and the wind is blowing so hard that particles and pieces of the buildings is actually falling off and flying, getting cast into the wind or whatever, and you see all the creatures that are in there, and he looks straight ahead, and he sees her sister, and she's about to jump off of a cliff, just like how she killed herself. So I thought that was an epic moment. He's running to get her. All these demons are around him, and they're trying to stop him because they want him down there. Constantine has deported a bunch of demons back to hell, and they want him there. So, I mean, he's running. He's trying to get this article. It's like a tag that she takes off, which he will take back just as proof that she, in fact, is in hell. And the battle between him getting there in time to catch that and the demons holding him, it just makes for the ultimate climax of that part. So that would be my first pick, my number 3 pick for comic movie moments.
Number 3 pick is The Punisher, directed by Jonathan Hensleigh. My moment is right at the end. A bunch of loose ends got tied, and I don't want to give away too much, but John Travolta, who plays Saint, is he gets tied to the end of a car, and the car starts rolling, and the Punisher just detonating all these bombs, and all these cars are just exploding from left to right, and then finally the car that John Travolta's getting dragged by blows up, and then the camera angle just rises up, and all you see is a bunch of flames, and you see the Punisher sign right in the middle of it, and it was just epic. One way to end a comic book movie. So that's my pick, Punisher.
So the second movie I'm going to talk about, my second favorite comic book movie moment, is Oldboy in 2003. So Oldboy is a comic book. Here's the manga, and here's the Korean film. My favorite part in it, the best moment in that is near the end when he finally gets to the bad guy, but he realizes that he's kind of screwed and that his world is messed up, and he promises that he's never going to do anything like that again if he just lets him go, or lets his friend go, or lets his daughter go, or whoever. And he cuts off his own tongue, and then he just he's begging, and his enemy Wu Jin Lee is just watching him, and it's like he's just happy that his whole plan for these years and years and years has come together. And he gives Odaisu the little push button that's supposed to be connected to his heart. So he's like trying to let him know that you can kill me now, but he pushes the button, and actually it's just a recording of something that is also devastating for him. And once again, he's lost. But the best part is when Wu Jin is going down the elevator and is like having a final memory of his sister, and how he's holding her hand and how she jumps off the bridge, and his hand turns into the trigger finger that shoots himself in the head. It's a great shot of transition of what he was and now where it's led him. And he knew he was going to die. He just wanted to get his revenge, and he was gone, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And it's a beautifully tragic ending. Shakespeare could have wrote that. Oldboy, 2003.
And we're moving on. So my number 2 pick would be Sin City, directed by Robert Rodriguez and wrote by Frank Miller. I mean, he made the actual comic book. So the scene in this movie that I want to talk about is the opening sequence. The opening sequence, which basically has Josh Hartnett and Marley Shelton. Marley Shelton was the actress who was playing it. So basically you see them, and of course, just like the rest of the movie, it's all like film noir, and it's in black and white, and only color that is like her eyes and like her dress and lipstick. But typical Sin City style, which is just epic in its own. So what I love most about this in the opening sequence is the fact that he's there to kill her, but he comes off as the nicest guy. And the stuff that he's saying is so poetic. Like the choice of words and dialogue that they use is like the silencer makes a whisper of the gunshot. Like, come on, that is so poetic. And before he shoots her, he says, "I love you." Pow. So the last thing he says is, "I'll cash her check in the morning." Come on, how epic is that? They're on top of a building of like a city skyline skyscrape, and it's raining. And he shoots her, and he holds her until she dies. She dies right in his arms. It's all wet. And then the camera kind of zooms out, and you see it goes from like the top of the Eiffel Tower or whatever tall structure they're on. And you see the rest of the city, and then the city transforms into the word Sin City. And I had to pick that. That would be my number 2 pick of epic comic book movie moments.
And my number 2 pick for comic book movie scenes is The Dark Knight, directed by Christopher Nolan. The opening scene for that was just crazy, how the Joker's going in and he has all these Jokers working with him, and how they put this scene piece to piece together was just crazy. And then you have one Joker doing one thing, then another Joker helping out with this and that, and then after they end the scene, they're like, okay, bam, and they shoot one Joker off, and then they're like, that was part of this. That was part of the plan. Then you go to the next one, and then the other Joker kills him off, and then he's like, no, he's not supposed to be killed off. The bus is supposed to kill him. And then the other Joker's like, what bus? Boom, and he gets smashed, and then he dies, and then you just find out that the Joker himself is actually in the midst of all of it, and he just takes the money, and he gets inside the back of that bus, and gets inside, takes off, and he steals the money from the bank, and it's just crazy how he did that. I love that scene. Number 2 pick, Dark Knight.
And the number 1 movie I'm going to talk about, number 1 comic book movie moment, is from X-Men 2. There's this part where they think they finally got Magneto, and they put him in this plastic prison because, he's a magnet guy, and he can control magnets and metals and things. So they think, well, obviously the best thing to do is to put him in a plastic prison so he can't get out. It's like putting him in a Tupperware jar. It's the same thing I guess they tried to do to Loki in the Avengers. But there's the part where on the other side of that fence is Rebecca Romijn, Mystique. She's plotting against him, so she injects this guy with iron, and he's the prison guard, and he goes in there, and Magneto just sucks all that metal out of his body and uses it as bullets and uses it as a plate to transfer himself outside of the prison. It was an amazing moment. I guess we're all Magneto fans. There's an endless amount of cool things you can do with him, and that's why they're going to keep making more movies with him. That's my number one pick, X-Men 2003.
So my number one pick for comic book movie moments would be in the 2006 films Superman Returns. Now, say whatever you have to say about the movie, who cares? This scene that I'm talking about is probably one of the most epic scenes in the movie, and if not the only great scene that people talked about. And I'm sure you already know what I'm going to say, but if not, I'm going to tell you. It's basically the bank robbery scene. In this bank robbery scene, like, this dude is on the roof, and he's like shooting down at the street with all the cop cars with like this big 50 cal automatic, just shooting up the place, right? And like, two guards come, and you know, they know they're dead. They know it's like, well, we got to go down. We have to do uphold our duty, uphold this badge. So let's just go out there. They have these two like, little pea shooter guns compared to what he has, but they shoot him, and he's wearing armor, so he sees and he turns around and he's just unleashing all these, I'm talking about shells that's falling. It's really epic. He's already standing in a pile of shell casings, and he's just unleashing. Right before he gets there, Superman comes in, everything's in slow motion. He flies in, stops right in front of it. So all these bullets are hitting him and bounces off, right? This dude's really unleashing it, just letting it go. Superman is just like, bullets are just bouncing off of him, and he's walking up to the guy like no harm. He gets about this close. He's about this close to the guy where they're about to like touch nose or whatever. The guy was like, you know what, forget it. He throws his gun to the side. He pulls out a gun, points it right at Superman's eye, and this was so visually impacting. I mean, what do you think the weakest point in any person's body would be? I mean, how hard is your eye? But the camera angle was from the side. It shows the bullet, the actual bullet, hit this guy's pupil, crunch over and fall down. And what even wraps it up is the fact that Superman and that guy look down at the bullet, and then Superman kind of smirks like, you thought, like, how stupid are you, right? So I would be stupid not to have put this as my number one pick for epic comic book movie moments.
And my number one pick for comic book movie scenes is X-Men First Class. The scene is where Magneto and Professor X are trying to find Shaw, and they actually get into his boat or submarine, and then Professor X is like, he's trying to think and trying to find out where Shaw is, and then Magneto steals that helmet from him, and then all of a sudden Professor X freezes him, and then the camera, I just love how the camera's seeing how they go from Professor X holding his thoughts and having Shaw frozen to having Magneto get that coin and go right through his forehead, and it's going back and forth from Shaw to Professor X, and it's the camera view is going like this, and you can see the coin going through, and then you see it cuts to Professor X, and he's just yelling, and then it goes back to Shaw and back to Professor X, and it's just symbolizing that Magneto is killing both guys because he's switching teams and leaving Professor X, and he's also killing Shaw, who killed his mother way back when with that, because he couldn't move that coin when he was a little kid, and it was just a great shot. I love the camera angles and everything, and that's my number one pick for comic book movie scenes, X-Men First Class.
So this was my number one pick, and I'm happy with it. Wouldn't change it. It was epic. The only thing I would hope is more epic moments happen in other comic book movies coming out. Let us know what you think. Subscribe, leave comments, let us know how you feel. Check us out. Hit us up on Twitter at Film Debris, at Masterside, at Jesse88. You know? That's good too.